All right, and it looks like we're live. Howdy, everyone, and welcome to Node Foundation's Enterprise Conversations. I'm Tracy Hines, here along with Michael Rogers from the Node Foundation. Say hi.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, and we're here today to talk with Chris Williams from Emerging Technology Advisors.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going, Chris?
It's going well. As some of you may know, at least right now, DC is going through its wonderful shift from the dead of winter to the burning summer, and we have days that alternate at about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, just randomly, just to mess with you. There's never a good coat to wear this time. No.
Yeah.
Layers, man, layers.
Yeah. But then you got to carry the layers around. It's just never works out.
That's what's in those briefcases.
That is. It's actually the hidden secret of the enterprise. The briefcases only contain the different layers that you have to wear throughout the day. Sometimes you go in the room that's too cold, you got to put on an extra coat. The sport coat on sport coat look is magical. I don't actually encourage that, no.
The new double popped collar.
Some people say 3 buttons out of style. I go for 6 button because I want it fully buttoned up.
Oh, well, on that note, we're going to dig in.
There we go.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about Emerging Technology Advisors and your team?
Absolutely. So we normally don't do the whole Emerging Technology Advisors. ETA is what we generally go by. We help companies, the way I like to phrase it is we essentially democratize battle scars. The team that we have assembled, they are at the forefront of technology. They were there through the beginnings and continued growth of Node, also with Go, Docker, containers, Kubernetes, all of it. And those all come with battle scars, as I'm sure anyone listening to this. I don't think anyone's ever used Node correctly 100% of the time. Always. There's always the things that, used incorrectly, it might not get the results that you want. And those become pain points or frustration points, especially if you don't have somebody that you can go ask a question of, why is this not working like it should? And due to that, that's sort of why we set up ETA. We wanted to help people use the technologies that are out there correctly and not just because they are new shiny objects. There are right use cases for some tools. There are very inappropriate use cases for those same tools. And so what we try to do is help organizations looking to adopt these new technologies avoid the potholes that they may run into, avoid the problem sets where they finally get through all, especially in the enterprise and government and financial industries. They run into these new technologies and everyone out there says it's amazing, it's wonderful. If you just change your entire C program stack over to Node.js, it will go better, faster, cheaper, lighter, stronger, all sorts of things in the cloud. Got to have in the cloud there.
And that is true, and we'll leave that there. No.
Yeah, all right, and this is done. And normally what happens is they'll find a book. Almost always they find Douglas's book for some reason. I'm not sure why that one keeps coming up, but they find books. Yeah. They try to learn. They try to do. Yeah. Yes. They find the callback hell stuff, and then they have questions, and then there gets that little bit of fear, and then especially with the rate of change going now, async and await coming through, they get paralyzed. People get paralyzed by, I've got a new shiny object. I really want to use it. It doesn't do what I wanted to do when I really wanted to do it. And so they have, at least for the people we've worked with, they've reached out to us and said, help us figure out where these things go, how they work, how they connect up. We still are working with an Oracle database running on Solaris. Do I have to change that to Node.js? All sorts of wonderful questions that most of them are just like, no, you're just overthinking it. Take a step back. We'll go slow through this. And so we do a little bit of hand holding, a little bit of instruction, and then try to assemble a roadmap or a pathway that they can move forward with and integrate these newer technologies at the right point in time. And I mention that because, as anyone listening to this, the enterprise has a stereotype of being slower, specifically slower to adopt newer technologies out of as best I can describe it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But once you start breaking through those, there's a let's use all the new things. And so Node has such breadth and such capability that it can sit in a container world, it can sit in an on-premises facility, it can sit in a Lambda or a serverless domain. And because of that, you want to help companies, or at least we try to help companies, pick which best fits them long term. And I mention that because in an enterprise domain, the deployment cycles aren't like the wonders of the San Francisco area that are deploying 900 times a minute. It's gonna maybe get a release out for the first couple steps until they make a full DevOps transition, as it's called, a business transformation. Until they embrace it holistically, it could take a release cycle of 2 to 3 years before they get something out the door, even with using newer technologies. And so what we try to do is say, look, some of these technologies are gonna be, when you start with them, a little bit in their beginning stages. Serverless would be one of them, which leverages Node. We use them. It's okay to use them for now. By the time your product or your service or your support system goes out, whatever it is that group's building, it's going to be 2 to 3 years down the road, and by that point everything will be production. You're going to launch into a fully productionized environment with the latest and the greatest, not you're starting with what's latest and greatest today and you're cementing that, and then you're lockstep stuck there because you can't go through.
So I think what I'm hearing is that I should not be running Docker containers on my IoT device. That was a bad idea.
That's not a true statement. In fact, there was a demonstration that I saw where I think it was the Resin team, Resin.io. They were actually running Docker containers on a drone and changed out the Docker container and had the communication unit flow. So it was like a transparent handover, such that the rotors kept flying. So in flight, Docker container replacement on a drone. We were at peak geekiness at that point. Yes.
Wow.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, so Chris, can you give us another great example of a project where Node was implemented with ETA?
Happy to do so. So with this, one of our biggest projects that we've worked with is with one of the big accounting companies. I can't say which one, but with one of the big accounting companies, they wanted to have insight and knowledge to their data, which sounds like a very obvious thing that should have been done back when they started making the data. But due to the enterprise being the enterprise, which the term, like I always harken back to the USS Enterprise for some reason. Like in my mind, Jean-Luc Picard is somewhere hiding in these facilities. So the with this, they wanted insight. They wanted it not just a view of the person's data, but they wanted something that would present that data, the internal data, to them in near real time of use. So calculating where the person is, when they're moving in and out of facilities, giving them their meaningful data, their meaningful contextual information as they need it. Think of it like a Google Now applied to enterprise data, meaningful enterprise data inside their own system. And so with that, we introduced them to using a lot of new technologies, one of which was Node, and it kind of got people a little bit scared, a little bit squeamish at the beginning. We're not sure about this JavaScript. We use it with our front pages. And so we were able to show them a better, faster, more effective workflow that they could start to engage people from the front end all the way to the back end happily, successfully, and meaningfully, which is great. So in doing this project, it not only, it sort of handed off the first bit of fire to the rest of their team to start continuing a transition flow or a movement forward, so that way they could go and do it on their own, which is kind of what we as a team like to do. We don't want to be there forever. We're not big enough to do something like that. So we like to encourage and educate and hand over those sorts of things. And they've gone and done wonderful things with it since then. So they are actually moving most of their development efforts towards Node. So it's kind of neat to watch. Like people who have been stymied and stuck with, you have to use this one language. At some point, you just accept it, which is not the right thing. But in terms of an engineering force and a development force and just a technology team, unfortunately, in bigger and bigger organizations, these rules, these mandates, the standards, they become like sacred things, and people don't question them. So being a bit of a troublemaker myself, believe it or not, I like to go in and ask, and this is what we generally do in our first engagement step, is I challenge all those rules. I challenge what are your absolute truths and why are they there? Do they matter anymore? Does it even make sense that you're holding these truths to be mandates? And so with that, you get to unpack some of that. And I think a lot of that has to happen as like a first step, regardless of where and how you're going to use Node. It's for some groups, especially in your bigger enterprise class, it's going to be, we want to use it. We've been told we can only use Java 1.4. So how is this going to work? And it's challenging those base principles of why do you have to use that? Is it really the best answer? And then going from there and unpacking it up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of these enterprise conversations now, and one thing that keeps coming up is that it's not just that, you know, this team likes Node. It's really that Node is a way that they challenge a lot of just the organizational assumptions, and not just about technology, but around the way that teams are built and the way that the product is built. And having that universal language really kind of helps them challenge some of those ideas.
Yeah,
and you see this move into the, oh, go ahead, Tracy.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to just throw in there. You see this moving into that conversation starts small and generally organically, but once it starts rolling, it has, at least in all of the instances I've seen, a profound and hugely beneficial change rate inside the organization. Other groups look to that team. This is similar to how PayPal went through its regenesis, inspiration, re-excitement, any of those great words. And you see this, it's not just isolated to that group where they didn't have necessarily a special magic. It comes with the levity and the agility, the speed, the I can do it type feeling that when you use a language or a framework like Node, a language like JavaScript, you start to be able to do things faster. Teams are able to do things faster. They're able to onboard people faster. They're able to take different ideas and blend them in. They're able to try things and experiment again. And really, like at the core of what everyone ballyhoos around innovation is the concept of experimentation, that you have to have a way that you can easily and disposably try stuff, watch it all burn, figure out why it burned, and then quickly rebuild it, and do that in a cycle that holds a human's attention span. So at a workplace, it's, you know, on the orders of days to maybe a couple weeks. Anything longer than that's going to be too arduous and too big of a mountain to climb over. At least that's from my observations.
In the example that you were giving before with the company that you worked with, I'm always curious about this from kind of indulgent education manager perspective. Were they already using Node, and so in the handoff, they were already comfortable with it, but maybe a flavor that y'all had written, or was it like they wanted to use Node but weren't yet?
That's a good question. So with ETA, we have two general buckets of engagements, two ways things start. You probably have heard this sort of a mantra before. People who come to us evaluating new technologies, wanting to build out a plan, wanting to take that first step and do it correctly. Then there's pretty much everyone else, which is, oh crap, we started down this path. It's not working. The world's on fire. We've got 1 week till production. Please help. And so with that, it's a common story, isn't it? It happens all the time. It's something like a 1% in the first bucket and a 99% in the back. And so we try to let people know that that's not an uncommon sort of thing. It's actually a rather common sort of thing. And it's great. You should try things out. Probably should raise a flag more than a week to 2 weeks before the production hit, but you know, cool. With this case, we were working with the team there largely because we were doing an education initiative, the new Da Vinci program, where we're trying to use Node to teach kids in elementary, middle, and high schools how to program, what essentially the next generation toolkit would be, the next generation of ideas would be. So we taught them 3D printing, we taught them programming, we taught them 3D scanning, all sorts of really cool stuff. So because of our work there, we were talking with the sponsor who was from that large organization, and he was distraught. He was a little bit upset, and I pried, was like, is there something we can help with? And he described to me that they were in one of those wonderful, we are presenting in front of our executives next week, and things don't seem to be right. So we dug in a little bit, we rolled up our sleeves, and we introduced Node as, look, we can get you to that point. Here's how we're going to do it, and run. And so the ETA team built it out in, I think it was a 1.5-week time frame. The sort of the Rev 0.1 version that they were then able to present, pulling from data sources, presenting the information. And because of that rapid capability, because of the high quality return, they were immediately embracing it. And so it wasn't a hard sell, it wasn't how to get it in, it was more of a show rather than tell, sort of a, or do rather than tell type way that we did it. And we do this actually with quite a few of our other customers too, largely because the risk of helping out by building out a Node app is very low, because you can get a full functional app that does amazing things in almost no time at all. I think anyone listening to this would probably agree. Now, as it grows, of course, it takes time getting all the pieces together, sure. But if you start with a microservices architecture or approach, you're building small, you're not growing monoliths, so you don't have to swallow a massive pill. You just take bites out and you build them and you cobble them together through whatever communication medium you have, whether it's service bus, if you're just going to go enterprise-y for the sake of it, or just a simple REST API communication path.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we had sort of already covered it, but was there like something less specific about, because I think you gave such great examples of like, why Node? Why Node over other languages when you're going into these places?
That's a good question. So why Node? The main reason why we like Node as a team is our ability for people who are working on React in the front end to lend a hand and support when needed. I like to think of it as elastic resource utilization, where everyone can help out. You can be a full, unified, cohesive team. This helps tremendously in pressure scenarios, because it's not all chips are resting on one individual. Everyone can lend a hand, everyone can support, and this comes in tremendously helpful in debugging scenarios. I don't know, there's that beautiful comic of the storyline of debugging where it's, minute 1, this could never work this way. Minute 2, this absolutely will never ever work this way. It doesn't make any sense. Minute 3, oh, that makes perfect sense. All right, minute 4, I'm done. That I wish it was a 4-minute cycle always for debugging, but it almost never is. It's a very hard sort of thing to get through. It's actually one of those things that I've spoken about, which is, in my mind, almost an artisanal skill that has, for whatever reason, not been given its due. In my mind, I think that debugging is one of the most important things that we should teach people how to do. Anyways, that's a separate conversation. And so to this, it's the ability for everyone to lend a hand. Cross communication gives that singular vernacular, single language across the team that everyone can communicate with, and it's fun. I do a lot of languages, Rust and Go and Python, and every language has a beautifulness about it. JavaScript, for better or for worse, has something magical about it. Has a lot to do with the fact that you can do some great things. Yes, you can shoot your foot off if you want and not know it. There are those idiosyncrasies that it has, but it's lightweight, it's fast. The quick interpretation cycles that the V8 engine underneath Node gives you, the fact that it's been possibly the most battle-tested language out there, I think that's a valid statement. I'm going to go with it because it's been in browsers all over the place. It's been beat up, kicked at, yelled at, all sorts of horrible things, but yet has still persevered, and not just persevered, but moved aggressively fast. The concepts that Ryan introduced when he first described Node at JSConf EU, way back in the day, 2009, they weren't revolutionary necessarily, as they were completely amazing to bring that sort of an idea and a concept down to anyone who could write a web page. For me, that was the most exciting thing, is that bringing a concept like an event loop and leveraging that for programming at a layer that anyone who can basically write a web page can kind of grok, kind of work with, kind of build, and do amazing things with, is a tremendous power. The other side is, and this is a bit personal, but I also like, for those of you who may not know me, playing with robots and drones, and Node has a beautiful ability to connect through, and has, I think at this point, kind of taken a dominant seat as the language with the Johnny 5 toolkit and all, with at that forefront for robotics, for hobbyist robotics, but even some higher end and industrial robotics. And so because of that, it gives me a language that I can do stuff in an interactive user interface componentry with React and Angular. The JavaScript components, I can do server componentry with Node. And then I can also do physical changes and physical activities in the world with the Node serial port, Johnny 5, those sorts of workflows. And so the ability to do that wide breadth of capabilities is just amazing. And for someone like me who, I will admit, probably has a very small attention span, I love doing different things, having a lot of things going all at once. It seems to be the right sort of thing that fits my mentality. It may not, your mileage may vary, but at least for me, it seems to be that sweet spot.
It must be like a little bit vindicating as well, because I mean, not all of our listeners are aware, but you started a conference, JSConf, when there really wasn't a JavaScript community. Like, people wrote JavaScript, but it was like a thing that everybody sort of did because they had to and kind of hated, I think, and it didn't have a good reputation. And to walk into like a military contractor and be like, you know what, JavaScript.
You're gonna do the JavaScripts. Yes. There was the Rhino book, which was too big for anyone to ever actually read. No. And then there was Douglas Crockford's JavaScript, The Good Parts, which, even though the language, JavaScript and Node have progressed so far since that book was authored, everyone still adheres to, like, as if it was biblical text that will exist in perpetuity forever. Is it vindicating? Yes. It's been quite an interesting journey, having the view that I have and seeing the very first JSConf happen, when I will admit I wasn't even a JavaScript person back then. The funny story about that was I wanted to go to a JavaScript conference to learn and grow in JavaScript knowledge, and somehow I ended up running one. And then people started to think I knew what the heck I was doing, and that was scary. And then I started doing it and walking, and then it's part of the interesting thing. There's it is nice to see wide adoption and agreements at the tables of the programming languages, and people have started to get, hey, this JavaScript thing isn't a toy. It's not something that's going to die. I mean, Michael, you've been there. Tracy, you've been there. What was it? Year like 6 of Node being around. Oh, that thing's still going to die. Okay. I mean, I think we're past that point. Yeah. And yeah, there was a lot of, and there still is a lot of angst and anger about JavaScript. Its syntax looks funny and callback hell and all these other horrible things, but every language has its warts. So what I've loved doing is going to various other programming languages and hearing about how theirs is great, and then just throwing in those awkward comments like, well, what about the global interpreter lock? That's still a thing? Oh yeah, okay, cool. How about we all just agree that our languages have good things and they have bad things, and then we can all play along and play happily. That seems to have taken root for the most part. At least from what I've seen, there seems to be a lot more collaboration across languages. People taking ideas from one language, moving them over to another, and it's where the technology industry needs to get to. It needs to, the polarizing of I'm a Rubyist versus and I hate JavaScript. Well, okay, that seems a little short-sighted. I guess you're never going to write a web page. Okay, cool. There's no reason why any person shouldn't feel comfortable learning multiple different languages. And I know that's an awkward thing to say on a Node.js discussion, but that's also one of the things that has made the Node community, I think, very, very exciting and engaging, and sort of a bit of a humble aspect to it, which is, for many, many years, people thought JavaScript was a pox on humanity. And who knows, maybe it is, but at least we figured out how to use it correctly. So I think that mentality has helped not get too much of an overinflated sense of self worth, as it were, which is, I think, a good thing. And so that's why the Node community, generally speaking, there's every technology community seems to have its ups and downs, but the Node community seems to be a rather on the right path. And that also has a lot to do with, if I may spread some love, Mikeal and Tracy, your efforts, the efforts of the foundation's driving team, all of the general people out there throughout the history of Node who have helped to try to curate a good and welcoming environment and community. Those are hugely powerful things that I fear often go underappreciated. So if I may, I'm going to take a minute and give love to y'all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love the dialogue of the right tool for the job, because I think it does do a disservice to any programming language. And even Node, if people try and focus on the things that they're not, like the language isn't great at, or even like it may not, we don't know that it's great at yet because we haven't developed a way to be able to manage that. But it's, I think it's been really exciting to see how Node has done that so far. So I appreciate reaching out there.
Yeah, I think, on that topic too of, when good ideas are good, like people should, steal them and learn from each other. And one of the more validating things to me about Node has been the ideas that other languages have sort of copied and been really successful with. Like if you look at Composer in the PHP community, it takes, a lot of ideas very directly from NPM, the way that NPM packages and packaging works. And that has, created this huge explosion in, reusable components and modules for PHP. That's kind of unprecedented. So that's been really cool to watch.
Also, I believe Cargo was influenced by a lot of the designs of NPM. Cargo Rust's package manager that Yehuda authored or co-authored. Yehuda was involved in it. And so, yeah, the sharing of knowledge is the only way all of us move forward. Keeping it as special and or not learning from other people's both successes and as much to learn as possible from failures it doesn't move the entire industry forward, and it does everyone a disservice. So it doesn't make sense to like keep those tightly knit. It also goes against the base principles of open source, which a lot of these languages have deep entrenched roots in. I think almost all programming languages these days have are open source. I'm trying to think if there's any that aren't, but no, I think most of the major ones. Let's go with that. Most of the major ones. I'm not going to go confidently and say all programming languages are open source, but there's the ethos of sharing, and that's valuable. And humanity sometimes gets in the way of humanity. So.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, so can you share a project that Node directly impacted the team and business for?
Yeah. We were working with a sports content publisher that handles a lot of traffic and is sort of the provider of a lot of sports content. And they were looking at moving their system, I think it was a Rails-based environment. They had started dabbling with Node. They were seeing rather fast development cycles. They were breaking apart the monolith, as they say, and moving pieces out into Node. And they were able to get a tremendous gain in performance, in the developer happiness, as well as also smaller code weight, which is a valuable sort of thing. It's easier to rationalize programs if they have smaller code weight. And so we helped them. They were heading towards sort of a finish line. They're having a bit of a performance issue or concern. We were able to help them fix up that performance issue, so much so that they were able to run an extreme amount of traffic that they never thought would be possible with a single server, and that just was amazing. And so we had done some battle testing of it before, and it kind of actually, if I may, even impressed us as to how much it was able to handle. But it goes to show that like this once thought of toy language and once belittled Node.js package can do such amazing things. And even people who are deeply entrenched in technology are so inspired by what it can do for both them, their teams, their general happiness, and as well as also the performance gains and benefits that they see on once they put those systems into production.
It reminds me a little bit of the Node Black Friday stuff, right? Where, they had like 100 or 200 processes up, but when you looked at the benchmarks, if they wanted to stretch it, they could have done it with just a couple processes.
Right. You almost get to the don't tell my parents this, but when I was growing up, I used to play a really bad game, which was I would see how low I could get my grades and then get them back up before the end. I do not recommend that for any kids that might be listening to this, but it's an interesting thing. Once you can do this with Node, you could also kind of do it with Go. Is you start seeing, well, what if I only ran it on one? I know it's a horrible idea, and I know it ruins HA, but what if I just ran it on one? And it's quite impressive as to what it can do. It makes rethinking some of the things that are generally considered in specific to this conversation. Enterprise, by default, everyone thinks enterprise has to be big. It doesn't. There's nothing that demands that enterprise be big. Inside one of the biggest enterprises, the US government, you see groups like 18F doing these same sort of things. It doesn't have to be a massive system. Why not just do something small that makes it work? And so that mentality shift, going to let's focus on smaller, easily consumable, easily understandable pieces, it just adds so much more. It does add, I will admit, some complexity in management, connectivity, those sorts of things, but a lot of those pieces are also complemented with other things that are out there. The adoption of containers, whether it be through Kubernetes or Docker, the move towards serverless, which is also another great thing. Those sorts of things are really interesting, and it's kind of just an awesome thing. So there's also, I don't know, I'm going to throw this out there. Did anyone on this call see the recent, I think it's Neuro.js, which is pulling the neural net componentry into more JavaScript capabilities? It's amazing.
What?
We're going to have
Not
JavaScript that can program itself. I'm excited. What could go wrong? I can finally live my dream of making a sentient robot that runs JavaScript. Oh, this sounds really bad.
I was gonna say, as you walk through this, your like energy's already waning.
Yeah, because you know what it is? I'm realizing that this is going to go out there and somebody's going to make a startup around this, and then I'm going to be blamed for it. It's going to be my fault.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Yes. Actually, that's probably what they will name the company. It'll be Thanks, Chris. That's going to be the company name. And the first model they'll do will be the T for Thanks, Chris, the T1000. And then, no, wait, oh no, we're going down Skynet. Yeah, that won't work.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so then the next question, as we giggle, is I think for me, it's very self-indulgent, but for all of us is, are we going to see you on the team at Node Interactive this year, and will you be karaokeing?
If I'm there, I am absolutely karaokeing. It is an ETA mandate that everybody in our company karaoke's. No one sits the karaoke out. Everyone karaoke's. I don't know. Is that actually how you use the word karaoke? You can't sit the karaoke out. I think maybe. Anyways, we as a group, we were actually just down in Richmond, Virginia. We had a all hands. That sounds so big company. We had a gathering, and we had rented this old school house that was awesome, and they had a Sonos system in there. So we definitely pumped the 80s music, and we're all singing almost all the time. So it was a blast. I will absolutely be karaokeing. My battle plan is to be there, barring anything in my life getting in the way, which could happen. So that's my answer. But if I am not there, Linda Nichols, I believe, will be there. Troy Connor will be there. You should definitely go say hi to them. Alicia Lauerman might also be there. And maybe Derek as well. So Derek Lindahl. We have somehow managed to pull together awesome people, and I am every day that I get to hang out with them, whether working or singing 80s music, is a happy day for me. So
now I feel like
although
we should
the
kind of transition music out.
play the Phil Collins. Just play Phil Collins.
I can't do the drum roll. Yeah.
Silent
drum roll.
Silent drum roll. In my head, it was playing. I heard every beat as it was dropping.
Well, awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Chris. Great conversation.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me. And bye, everyone who's out there. I'm not sure if you can see the video, but thank you, everyone, for listening. And thanks for trying Node. And if you haven't tried Node, you should go try Node. It's fun. And if you have, you should get a robot and try to hack the robot. Also, if you go to the Apple Store, if you have an Apple Store near you, if you don't, there's a cool small online retailer called Amazon. They're up and coming. Although I heard they had a little bit of trouble yesterday. They get yourself a Parrot drone, whether it's the big AR drone or the small mini drone, and see if you can control that for better or for worse, hopefully for good, with Node.js. There's a lot of libraries out there. It is a lot of fun. And if you're listening to this and you do that, the only thing I'd ask is that when you do it, go find some young people and do it with them. Let them play with it too. Part of the belief that I have is that these sort of technologies shouldn't be held by an elite group of people that have some special magic. We should try to, as best we can, give that away to as many people as we possibly can. And so the only way to do that is by sometimes buying a drone on Amazon and forcing yourself to play with it, and then teaching other people how to play with it as well. I know that from my experience, we actually complete sort of in line with this. We do support for a technology group inside of a company called Ellucian. They are a large ERP system for most of the, if not all of the higher education colleges, universities in the US, around the world, that sort of thing. They have a huge 7,000 to 9,000 person event called eLive, which they've done. They've worked with us. We've powered their emerging technology componentry. And so what we do is we set up Node.js BattleBots, and we get people programming robots using JavaScript that they either play soccer with or BattleBots with. And normally the soccer turns into BattleBots. It's a thing that happens almost all the time. And people love it. It's fantastic. And the year before that, when we first did it, we did the drones, and the drones went all over the place. So if you can imagine like a massive convention center, there were drones flying everywhere. And humans are horrible at following directions. We'd say, hands off keyboard if the drone flies away, and they would just keep trying to type it, trying to fix it. So there's a lot of fun to be had with Node, not just in programming to do work. I'd encourage, I know this is not a thing to say in an enterprise conversation, but the more you play with Node, the more you will be capable of working with it better. So it's worth finding those outlets that allow you, the listener at home, it's an exercise for the reader, to go out and play with it truly play with it, actually do fun things with it. I know that some of the other projects that I have seen that have made me smile, I think Tracy and Mikeal, you've seen similar ones. There's people who have done at a JSConf and elsewhere, boats, where why not put electronics and Node in the water? What could go wrong? Rockets, using air-powered rockets that are controlled, the flow meters are controlled by JavaScript, and the launch vectors and the ailerons and all sorts of stuff. It's truly a wide open world. You can do all sorts of fun things. Linda, I'd be remiss not bringing Linda's thing. She's been working on Kitty Dar that detects cats in her house, which she has a lot of cats, and will alert when they're trying to get up on a ledge, and she's doing all sorts of really cool stuff with it. So, you know, take Node. If you can't do it at work right now, take it home, do some things, solve some problems you have, but do it in a fun manner. You know, enjoy it a little bit. Don't forget to enjoy the Node, as they say. No one says that, but I'm going to start that. So that's that.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right.
Spiral.
We're still live.